He said it's arguable. When Kevin Durant's healthy, it's arguable that he's the best player in the league, right? He could very well be. So, but I can say that about Giannis. I can say that about Joel Embiid. I can say that about James Harden. So I don't think he said anything. So, yeah, technically, okay, fine. But you guys know my stance. You earned that mythical title of best player in the world in the postseason, not in the regular season. So I'm still going to go with LeBron James when healthy, right? Until we are proven otherwise in the playoffs, LeBron is still the best player in the world. And KD, I'm going to be honest. I think it's arguable. It has become arguable who the best player on the Nets is. Because James Harden has played phenomenal basketball this year. And everybody wants to rail against Harden for his playoff failures. First of all, he did almost beat that Golden State team with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. And if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, maybe he does. Secondly, Kevin Durant has not proven he can lead his own team to the championship any more than James Harden is. He went to Golden State. I think if you put Harden in that situation, they probably win it as well in Golden State. And here's the clincher. Right now, the Nets are 7-8 with KD and Kyrie playing together. And I'm going to say this, and you guys know how high I am on the Brooklyn Nets. And I stand by my statement that it will take not a storm out of L.A., LeBron. It will take a hurricane out of L.A. to beat a healthy Brooklyn team. But I'm saying it right now. Brooklyn will not win the championship, cannot, if other teams are healthy, without James Harden. James Harden is the key for them to win the championship.
Okay, so then that answers the question. But just very quickly, I did find interesting, not to rehash old stuff, that you mentioned 5 people. Durant, LeBron, Giannis, Harden, and Embiid. They also happen to be the 5 people that our wonderful producers put in the corner of that screen as guys who have an argument for the best player in the league. You didn't think to mention, our producers didn't think to put in there their prohibitive favorite for league MVP, Nikola Jokic. So who's disrespecting Jokic now, me or you? Not even including the big Serbian fella. But it's neither here nor there. You just answered the question. If the Nets can't win the title with Kyrie Irving playing the best basketball of his life and with Kevin Durant staying healthy, if James Harden doesn't come back, then Kevin Durant can't be the best player in the league. Because there is no super team to go through. But when there was, 5 years ago, a 73-win team, and you had the actual best player in the league, and who was his best teammate? I remember his name, went to Duke. Oh, it's Kyrie Irving. They won that series. So it's not like it can't be done. It's not like KD and Kyrie, oh my God. Not in 2021. There are no triplets except for the ones that reside in Brooklyn. So if the belief is, Wildes, that you've got to have Harden for the Nets to be able to win the title, then that answers the question. And that's not me disrespecting Kevin Durant. I think Kevin Durant is sensational. I think Kevin Durant has a better argument for best player. Let me rephrase it. I think Kevin Durant is clearly the best player on his own team. I do think he's better than James Harden. But if the belief is the Nets have to add another MVP to the mix when they already have KD and Kyrie in order to win the title, then obviously he's not the best player alive. So, to me, that answers the question itself.
So I'm going to go off the board here, and Broussard mentioned it, but if we look at the corner graphic, there's one guy who's healthy pretty much all the time, had a little knee injury, and one guy who is probably can get better and better. There's also one guy who is the back-to-back reigning MVP that no one wants to talk about. Obviously, Brandon, it's Giannis, and I think that Broussard and Nick are right. That postseason success defines who gets to wear the crown, even though Giannis occasionally crowns himself with an invisible crown in the regular season. That's neither here nor there. That's why I think it's incumbent that Giannis needs to win the trophy. He's got to bring home old Larry O.B. He has to, because you can't win back-to-back MVPs. You can't lead your team to great regular season success. You can't crown yourself with an invisible crown. and then have your name left out of the conversation on who's the best. When you got two aging guys who are better yesterday than they are tomorrow, one of which has a high ankle sprain, the other one who is just constantly battling Achilles and we're always worried about. So I think this is a challenge to Giannis and shows how much pressure there is on him to win the championship this year.
I'll be quick here because Dame already said it. Look, Giannis is not going to win it because he has to go through KD. We're talking about a guy who could potentially be the best player on the planet when healthy. So it's not happening, okay? But this discussion about, KD potentially being the greatest player when healthy, it's a real one. It's close. Just a couple years ago, that's what drove KD. That was his thing. I want to be known and considered as the best player on the planet. I am the best player on the planet. He said it. And this dude, he's unguardable. He's probably, if you go through the history of the NBA, he is probably the number one most unguardable player out there. KD is that. We're talking about damn near 7 feet, the way he handled the ball. I mean, it's everything Dame already said. You can just re-roll that if you want to. So Nick, yeah, he's right there with LeBron, but LeBron does have this slight edge because LeBron brings a little bit more to the table. It's similar to that CP3 discussion we just had with Chris earlier in the show. He makes everybody better. He plays defense, his leadership, everything that he brings to the table outside of just scoring the basketball is why LeBron James has the edge.
Well, and I think, listen, I obviously agree with all that, and I also think it's not disrespect to Kevin Durant. I do think Kevin Durant's the second best player in the league. I think Kevin Durant, when the chips are down, is better than Giannis, is better than Embiid, is better than Harden, is better than Chris Paul, is better than Steph. I have to include Jokic, is better than Jokic. I think LeBron's the only guy I would rather have in a playoff series. But Broussard, this discussion, and I know KD says he's now evolved past caring about this stuff, and I don't know Kevin Durant. He and I had a very nice exchange on Twitter a few weeks ago that I thought was nice, a little healing moment, at least for me, because he and I have had our rough patches, but I don't know him personally at all, so I can't pretend to be able to get in his head. I thought it was good. I was happy with it. But if he does still care about this stuff, Broussard, then he handicapped himself once again by advocating for the Harden move. Because when he went to Brooklyn, I thought, and I don't, no, and I'm not, this is not an attack. I promise it's not an attack. It's just a pragmatic, I think, reality of the situation. When he went to Brooklyn, I thought, okay, you are leaving a situation that is perfect for winning because you have quenched that thirst. But what you haven't quenched the thirst of is winning a title on a team that you are the unquestioned centerpiece of. And as great as Kyrie is, nobody thought Kyrie was going to be Batman and KD was going to be Robin. Everyone knew what it was. But advocating to bring in a guy who has as many league MVPs as you, I think as many scoring titles as you, or at least it's close, and a guy who, like you just said, smart basketball people might say, he's actually a little better. I think now he's in Golden State all over again. Not quite, because they haven't won a ring, but where it's like, if they win and Harden's there, who's the best guy? And I think that's an odd spot for Kevin Durant to find himself in again because it's of his own making.
No, I agree with you. And I communicate with Durant here and there. And I don't think he's really that worried about it, or at least I think he's trying to move past worrying about what his legacy is and all that. Because you're right, then you don't bring in James Harden. But here's what I'll say about KD. And Brandon, you said it as far as him being this all-time great scorer and shooter, and arguably the best, because he is unstoppable as a 7-foot jump shooter and perimeter player, has to handle all that. But what he doesn't do all of the things that a LeBron James does. They both rebound fairly well, though LeBron's a little better. LeBron was a better defender. LeBron, is obviously a better passer, has better court vision. I think it's similar with James Harden. Like KD, he's certainly not one-dimensional because he can handle, can facilitate to some degree, and is very good defensively. But James Harden, I'm not trying to say he's definitively better than KD, but James Harden can score as well as KD, not as efficiently, but he can score as much. And he is a world-class facilitator. He's not a guy that can run the offense when you need him to. He is a guy that is an awesome point guard and playmaker as well as an awesome scorer. So offensively, he can do more than KD. And that's where the argument for these other guys comes in. KD is just more of a scorer, whereas Harden is more versatile. And that's let me finish with saying this. This is why Harden's the key. With Kyrie and KD on Brooklyn, they don't have a facilitator. Kyrie is technically a point guard, but he's not. He's really a scorer. He doesn't run the offense half as well as James Harden does. And while Kyrie and KD have both won championships, they both did it with a facilitator. Golden State facilitated for KD. LeBron facilitated for Kyrie. So all they had to do was score. They need Harden to be the guy to set the table for them to win a championship.
But in KD's defense, and I understand Harden when healthy, Brandon was making this case early, and when he first made it, I thought it was ridiculous, and then it got stronger and stronger, the case that James Harden was actually going to be the league's MVP, and then he got hurt, which is so odd for him because he never gets hurt, actually. So I'm not trying to take anything away from Harden here, but in KD's defense, on the spectrum of how close to your peak regular season performance is your postseason performance, KD is far closer to the LeBron end of the spectrum than the Giannis end of the spectrum, and Harden is far closer to the Giannis end. Like, we have seen Kevin Durant, I understand he was on stacked Golden State teams, but we have seen him go toe-to-toe with LeBron in the finals and be great. We have seen Kevin Durant's numbers. Hell, before he popped his Achilles, the series against the Clippers where he was dropping 45 and then 50. James Harden doesn't have those moments. He's got a couple of them, Brandon, but he doesn't, like KD, I don't worry at all about the playoffs being too much for KD. James Harden's history says that is a concern.
I got to go read this tweet exchange because you're turned into a KD fan. Golly. What did you guys tweet about a couple weeks ago? No, I got to go read it. Oh, my goodness.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.